On today's Solo Saturday news, Samoa Joe is all elite, Edge may have a new heel faction, a big WWE Hall of Fame roundup, AEW pull off a clean sweep at the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, and why Roman Reigns very nearly didn't return to WWE. Hello everyone, it's Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and as you've probably figured out by now, Phil Chambers is not in the UK, he's over there in Dallas, Texas, so it's just down to me to bring you all this Saturday news goodness. And of course, it was the Friday night of everything in the world of wrestling happening. We had SmackDown, we had Rampage, we had the WWE Hall of Fame, we had the Ring of Honor Supercard, and at some point there was sleeping. I don't know. There was just a lot going on, and we had a lot of people in What Culture on the ground there at the Ring of Honor Supercard and at SmackDown, the Hall of Fame, all the rest of it, and it was really good. We're going to have loads of content out there on the website, on the channel, so just go and check it out. We've just got so much Mania stuff, and we're throwing it at you, and we just want you to digest it through your face, through your ears, through your knees. I don't know where I'm going with this, but we're going to talk about new stuff because the big story coming out of last night, and that's crazy to say because it was the same night that The Undertaker got inducted into the Hall of Fame. We're going to get to that, but the big story is that Samoa Joe is now all elite. That happened last night, and it was a big moment expectedly because he's all elite, but that became official at a Ring of Honor Supercard show, and it now appears that he's also Ring of Honor. A lot of stuff going on here. He came to save the day because Jonathan Gresham, who's now still the Ring of Honor undisputed champion at this point, he was getting beaten down at the hands of like Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt. He was getting battered. And then Tony Khan had like teased a big thing is going to happen on this Ring of Honor Supercard. So you better not leave as the show ends, because if you do, it's going to be the biggest regret of your life. And sometimes he kind of oversells these moments. But to be honest, yeah, this was pretty damn big. And Samoa Joe came out with his like towel over his head. And everyone was like, Joe, Joe, Joe. And he like put Dutt in a big like Kokita clutch thing. And he just battered everyone. It was great. And it's now looking like potentially we could have Jonathan Gresham maybe either aligning with Samoa Joe. He could take on Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor Championship as like a respectable little like nod, let's say, to the past, as Ring of Honor's longest champion in the history of that promotion is Samoa Joe. So that's a huge cool thing, and it's just great seeing Samoa Joe now part of All Elite Wrestling as well, technically, so he could probably pop up on Wednesday night Dynamite and beat loads of people up and all the rest of that. It's just good, and I'm happy that Samoa Joe seems really happy with that decision as well. So great news, but we're going to move on because there's even more stuff that we need to talk about that popped up into the wrestling sphere last night. There was a report from Fightful Select which seems to hint at potentially Edge getting a bold new faction. I know things have changed a lot for Edge over the last couple of weeks. He's turned purple and he's been a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest, and he's changed his music, but it's a complete reinvention. He's trying new things, so you gotta like tip your cap to Edge for doing that in the first place. But apparently backstage there's been a lot of heavy pitching towards having Edge have his own heel faction, and when it comes to people who are going to be a part of this faction, that's obviously the first thing that people think about when they hear this kind of stuff. Damian Priest is one of the major names that's been like linked to it. Obviously right now he just turned heel himself a couple of months back, and that could be quite interesting. There's obviously going to be a lot of other people. Maybe you bring in Tommaso Ciampa. They've got a bit of a connection off screen as well, so you could bring him in as like a heelish new person. Like just anything could happen with this. It could be really cool. At this point it is just in the pitching stages, so we don't know what can happen. Anything could change because that's just what WWE is. It's just what WWE does. But Edge is the leader of a new faction. I'm into that. I think that'd be pretty good. It'd be a way of keeping Edge on screen without having him have to wrestle every single week, all the rest of it. I think it'd be good to pass off his advice and just like usher in this next generation under his big old rated R learning tree, and that would just be really good. I think it'd be great. But speaking of learning trees and just the passing of the guard and the legends and all the rest of it, WWE's Hall of Fame did happen last night, and it was a biggie, wasn't it? Let's be honest, because you had Vader going in, you had the Steiner brothers going in, you had Queen Charmel, you had Shad Gaspar get the Warrior Award, and that was like a really touching, obviously very, very poignant moment when that happens. That was a huge thing as well. But the main event obviously was The Undertaker going in. That was a massive, massive deal. Vince McMahon himself inducted him into the Hall of Fame. He gave a long old speech because that's just what Vinnie Mac does. And he read off like a long list of people that The Undertaker shared the ring with and battled with over the years. And he read it off really quickly because people kept popping up going, what? And he was not happy. People, stop doing it. It's not funny now. It's just stupid. And it was stupid here. And Vince McMahon a couple of times just kept looking at the crowd like, seriously? Like Hall of Fame, Undertaker's Hall of Fame, and we're still doing the what thing. Great. But he was doing this big long list, and as he was doing it, he kind of like threw Bray Wyatt in there, and if he didn't want to mention him, I don't get, he's got full control over this. I don't get why he put him in there in the first place if he didn't want to mention it, but he said his name like under his breath. He was like, Bray Wyatt. And everyone kind of went, oh, that's a bit strange. But then, speaking of Wyatt, Mr. Wyatt, this was a nice little segue that I've worked into this, obviously, because I'm really good at my job, can you tell? He went on Twitter, and he said, I'm paying my respects to The Undertaker. This was before the Hall of Fame actual event thing went down. Don't know why that didn't come to mind. The word legend is thrown around a lot these days, but no one owns that title like the dead man does. It was an honor every time I stepped in the ring with him. For my money, he's the best to ever lace him up. I'm happy for you, man. Well deserved. And, well, I can't really argue with that, to be honest. So that was a big thing. And Taker had an exceptional speech. It was really great, like long, loads of stories, loads of anecdotes, loads of nods to all the people that helped him over the years. I believe he didn't really mention Mick Foley, which appeared to really upset Noelle Foley on Twitter. Kind of understandable, I guess. Like, she is a bit upset by that because he was an integral part of his career. But he was talking about a lot of things on the night, so if something just slipped out of his speech, you can't really blame the man. He had a lot of ground to cover. And at the end, the big takeaway, obviously it's the thing that the internet has just exploded over, is the fact that The Undertaker took his hat and his big coat off. There was a couple like Undertaker things behind him, like big mannequins with Undertaker garments from over the years, and he took the cap and the hat and the big jacket trench coat thing. He turned around to the audience and went, never say never, after they were saying one more match, and that's obviously alluding as well to the comments he made a couple of days ago about saying he might have one more match in him if the timing's right and all the rest of it. But I want it to end here. I think his legacy's so amazing, like in what he's done up to this point. Like, there was a bumpy little stage towards the end, but he recovered it with a Boneyard match. Just stop it now. It's great. We had a lovely Hall of Fame there, but one of the best speeches I think we've had in Hall of Fame history. Let's just do that. Let's just have that done. But going back to the Ring of Honor Supercard, obviously I'm losing breath, power, control of myself right now, but we will power on because this is Mania weekend. It's just what we do. And AEW pulled off a bit of an interesting feat last night because they had a lot of people on this Ring of Honor Supercard, obviously because Tony Khan has taken over Ring of Honor, so he brought a lot of AEW pals in there to try and bolster the card and just make it a bit more of a watchable entity, even though it was already watchable in the first place if you are a big Ring of Honor fan, but it just helps having a bit more star power on that show. And in the end, AEW pulled off a clean sweep, and that's in terms of winning titles, just winning matches, all of it. So I'm just going to go through a few of the results that went down. Obviously, there was the absolute instant classic. Again, the internet has exploded over FTR versus the Briscoes, and FTR won that match. They've become the new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. And just giving a little nod to Dynamite this week, we are going to have the Young Bucks versus FTR 2 over the Ring of Honor and AAA championships. I believe both sets of belts are on the line, if I'm not mistaken. Like, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe that's where we're going. Mercedes Martinez won the interim women's championship, and she beat Willow Nightingale. Wheeler Yuta, obviously the guy who just got his ass kicked off Bryan Danielson on Dynamite. He dethroned Josh Woods, so he won the pure title. Swerve Strickland defeated Alex Zane. Jay Lethal beat Lee Moriarty, and that was like an AEW derby really. It was a bit of a strange occurrence, but yeah, it's quite interesting. The AEW won every one of the matches. There was a lot of things that also went down in terms of big headline grabbers. Brian Cage is a person who's been missing on AEW television. Not really had a match, I believe, since October 2021, which is pretty crazy. He signed a new deal, or like an extension, whatever you want to call it, recently, or renewed. I'm not sure what the terminology is at this point, but he became a member of Tully Blanchard's new faction, stable, whatever you want to call it. He popped up, and the group, at this point anyway, consists of Brian Cage, Korn, and Toa Leona, and they were very successful in the first night on the job. So Korn and Leona obviously won their pre-show match. They won that with Tully Blanchard at the side, and then Blanchard returned on the main card, and he was there obviously to announce this mystery opponent for Ninja Mac, and the mystery opponent, of course, was Brian Cage. So he completely destroyed Mac, and it was great. It was just a violent squash match, really, which is what you expect from Brian Cage. So this is a great use for him. I think if he's going to be on this Ring of Honor program that Tony Khan seems to be pushing, cool. That's a good use of his time right now, because I feel like he was just getting massively lost in the shuffle. So we'll see where that progresses. And the last major story that we've got for today's news, it's been a biggie, so thank you for bearing with me on my own, just speaking to myself like a person who's got all the problems in the world. I don't, I swear. But Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman very very much almost didn't return to WWE in 2020, and there was one major reason why. I know, this is crazy. I'm not the why guy, but I am today. So coming into this year's show of shows, Roman Reigns has been doing all the rounds with the press. He's been speaking to ESPN as well, which is one of the biggies. And during this conversation, he pretty much just said he felt that he was right and he was smart to stay on the sidelines during the whole pandemic thing, the early stages of it at least, because he thought, well, I just want to sit back and see how the land settles and just think of a game plan. The game plan consisted of making this new tribal chief character, and the major thing that he wanted to kind of get over with this character, this reinvention of sorts, was that he just kept going back to power, and this is how he put it. I just want to be viewed as the most powerful superstar of all time when it comes to WWE and sports entertainment. I just really wanted to convey this portrait of a strength, almost like a mafia-style power. Not only is it respect, but they fear me, and that is definitely what ended up happening in the end. And with the hearts being so set on this new tribal chief character, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman that is, it got to the point where they were thinking, well, if we don't get permission from Vince McMahon to execute this story in a mostly unscripted fashion, that's the exact quote, then they weren't really keen on returning. So yeah, well, obviously Vince McMahon saw this character and saw the potential of it and thought, well, yes, we obviously need to push this guy to the moon again, but under this new guise, and give him the microphone at the start of SmackDown every single week throughout the Thunderdome era and make that entire show watchable. Yes, let's do that. But if he didn't, there's a world where Roman Reigns maybe would have stayed on the sidelines even longer and not had a pay-per-view pretty much just brought into existence just because he returned. I'm looking at you, Payback 2020. So that has been your solo Saturday news. Oh, we got there. It's going to be a big day, but I've got another little tidbit here at the end, because this is not the last you're going to see me today, because I'm going to get on a train, go all the way to Newcastle, and me and Andy Murray, we're going to sit there and we're going to stream WrestleMania 38, night 1 of 2 at AT&T Stadium, Texas place. We're going to be sat in the What Culture offices. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. I'm not going to fall asleep, I swear. I'm going to nap loads today, and it's going to be the most enjoyable thing you ever see. We're going to drink some Top Rope beer. We're just going to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin, what? And it's going to be great, and I'm so excited. We want you to come and join us then, just have the best of time, so make sure you do. Send us loads of stuff in the live chats, and we'll be sure to answer all questions about our bald heads. So don't forget to comment on all these stories in the comment section right down below, and like the video, share the video, subscribe to all things What Culture Wrestling. Follow myself on Twitter at gmorgan04. Do not follow Phil Chambers, because he's left me here stranded in the UK and he's living his best life over in America. Screw you, Phil. I'm joking. They're having a good time. We're having a good time, and I hope you have a good time this weekend, because the show is just beginning. It's going to get even crazier, and I cannot wait. See you later.